Thank you. Welcome to Hannity. 462 days into Robert Mueller's witch hunt. Still no evidence of collusion. But tonight, we do have proof. The Destroy Trump forces, they are working overtime, not only to smear this president, but every single person around him. Manafort, Cohen, Flynn, Papadopoulos, all targeted specifically because of crimes that had nothing to do with Russia, but because they're friends with the president. Dozens more of the president's allies now forced to endure what is excruciating, long hours, interrogations, numerous serious legal threats and fees, all while the Destroy Trump liberal media is cheering in unison for Team Mueller every step of the way. And with the midterm elections only 76 days away, Democrats are foaming at the mouth, as I have been warning, using Mueller's witch hunt as the basis for what they want, which is impeachment so they regain power in Congress. Very scary political future and picture, and it's the reason that these upcoming elections, I keep telling you, the most important midterms in our lifetime. And meanwhile, President Trump is now fighting back. In moments, we will bring you an exclusive preview, Ainsley Earhardt's interview with the president from earlier today. We'll also bring you an important update on the horrific murder, that case in Iowa, 20-year-old Molly Tibbetts senselessly murdered. The illegal immigrant who admitted to this horrific crime, appearing in court earlier today, and the president responding with a video on Twitter. We'll show you that tape. Sit tight, buckle up. We have a lot to get to in tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, since March of last year, I have been warning you, the American people, about 5 forces that are working to destroy President Trump. You have partisan deep state bureaucrats. We learned a lot about them in the last year and a half. Liberal Democrats, your corrupt, pathetic media, weak establishment Republicans, and this group called Never Trumpers. Yesterday, what we have been telling you for more than a year is now playing out as we have predicted. Led by Robert Mueller's merry band of Democratic donors and witch hunters, the deep state has successfully now targeted several Trump associates. They never would have been targeted if they weren't friends with the president. And yesterday, Paul Manafort, he was convicted on 8 of 18 bank and tax fraud charges, nothing to do with Russia collusion. And during an exclusive interview that will air tomorrow morning on Fox and Friends, President Trump weighed in on that and so much more. Let's get a sneak peek.
Are you considering pardoning Paul Manafort?
I have great respect for what he's done in terms of what he's gone through. You know, he worked for Ronald Reagan for years. He worked for Bob Dole. He worked, I guess his firm worked for McCain. He worked for many, many people, many, many years. And I would say what he did, some of the charges they threw against him, every consultant, every lobbyist in Washington probably does. If you look at Hillary Clinton's person, you take a look at the people that worked for Hillary Clinton. I mean, look at the crimes that Clinton did with the emails, and she deletes 33,000 emails after she gets a subpoena from Congress. And this Justice Department does nothing about it. And all of the other crimes that they've done.
We're going to have a lot more on the blatant legal double standard in a moment. But first, also yesterday, federal prosecutors compelled Michael Cohen to plead guilty to bank and tax fraud charges and some phony campaign finance violations. Again, none of these charges have anything to do with Russia, Russia collusion, President Trump, or the election of 2016. And last night, right here on this program, the great one, Mark Levin, completely debunked the campaign-related charges. Let's take a look.
The general counsel for the Clinton mob family, Lanny Davis, he had his client plead to 2 counts of criminality that don't exist. These campaign finance violations that all over TV, they're saying implicates the President of the United States directly. First, let's back up. It is a guilty plea. It is a plea bargain between a prosecutor and a criminal who doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison. That is not precedent. That applies only to that specific case. Nobody cites plea bargains for precedent. That's number one. Number two, just because a prosecutor says that somebody violated a campaign law doesn't make it so. He's not the judge. He's not the jury. We didn't adjudicate anything. It never went to court. That's number two. A campaign expenditure under our federal campaign laws is an expenditure solely for campaign activity. A candidate who spends his own money or even corporate money for an event that occurred not as a result of the campaign It is not a campaign expenditure.
In other words, most of the liberal lawyers you see on TV are dopes. They don't know the law. Look at Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz also debunking these charges. Guys, watch, listen, learn. It'll help you.
The law is clear that a president may contribute to his own campaign. So if the president had paid $280,000 to these two women, even if he had done so in order to help his campaign, that would be no problem. That's legal. And if Cohen himself made the contribution, that would be unlawful because he has a limit of $5,200. So the complicated issue is, what if Trump told him to do it, as Cohen says? Then Cohen would be acting for Trump as Trump's representative, and the campaign contribution would be lawful as long as the president ultimately paid for it.
That's 100% right. That's the law. And during an interview with Ainsley Earhardt, again, she's going to join us in a few minutes, the president reiterated these payments were in no way a campaign finance violation. Look at the law. Take a look. Listen, learn.
Did you know about the payments?
Later on, I knew. Later on. But you have to understand, Ainsley, what he did, and they weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me, and I tweeted about it. You know, I don't know if you know, but I tweeted about the payments. But they didn't come out of campaign. In fact, my first question when I heard about it was, did they come out of the campaign? Because that could be a little dicey. And they didn't come out of the campaign, and that's big. But they weren't, it's not even a campaign violation. If you look at President Obama, he had a massive campaign violation, but he had a different attorney general, and they viewed it a lot differently.
Now, while the media, they want you to believe that Michael Cohen, he was a central player in all things Trump, the president, well, he had a much different take. Let's listen to him.
Michael Cohen, tell me about your relationship with him.
Well, he was a lawyer for me for one of many. You know, they always say the lawyer, and then they like to add the fixer. Well, I don't know if he was a fixer. I don't know where that term came from, but he's been a lawyer for me. Didn't do big deals, did small deals. Not somebody that was with me that much. You know, they make it sound like I didn't live without him. I understood Michael Cohen very well. What turned out he wasn't a very good lawyer, frankly. But he was somebody that was probably with me for about 10 years, and I would see him sometimes.
Now, Michael Cohen's attorney, Lanny Davis, said that his client would not even accept a pardon from the president. He actually said that today. Lanny, I've known you a lot of years. Who are you representing here? That Michael Cohen wouldn't accept a pardon? He's facing as many as 5 years in jail? Look, Lanny, I know you're so embedded into the Clintons and you love all things Clinton, but you're supposed to represent Michael here. And if he was ever offered a pardon, it'd be pretty stupid not to take it. What a disservice. Now, no person would be better off spending years in prison with a felony conviction on their track record or getting a pardon. Basic, simple, common sense, Lanny. Now, regardless of what you think about Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, it is clear they have been targeted. They have been singled out for their one-time connection to President Trump, and now both men, and then you can add Michael Flynn and George Papadopoulos, they all face time in jail. A horrible example of what we have been exposing on this program. A two-tiered justice system. Equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws. That's the great system of our constitutional republic. In 2008, you may recall, the Obama campaign, they kept $1.3 million in illegal contributions. Guess what? Nobody got charged. Nobody got indicted. Nobody went to prison. No one was slapped with a felony. Just a campaign-wide fine, $375,000. 2017, the Clinton campaign, the DNC, they were reported to the FEC for failing to properly disclose their financial contributions to the dirty dossier, you know, that was funneled through Perkins Coie, the law firm that then hired, Fusion GPS, the op research group that then hired Christopher Steele, the foreign national who's not supposed to impact our elections, that then paid for Russian lies that he doesn't even stand by, then became the basis to lie to the American people before the campaign, then became the basis of 4 FISA warrants to spy on a Trump campaign associate. That's the whole thing. They didn't report that money. They paid, oh, that's a legal expense. It wasn't. Robert Mueller, nowhere to be found. And on the tax front, in 2015, according to a report from then Congressman Jason Chaffetz, he's in for Laura Ingraham tonight, federal workers owed $1 billion in unpaid taxes. That's right, they work for your government, including many in Obama's White House. Of course, no special counsel, no investigation, no indictment, nothing against these tax cheats. Remember tax cheat Geithner? They were working in our federal government. A lot. $1 billion is kind of a lot of money. I read that somewhere. It's now really clear that there's one system of justice for Hillary Clinton, the Democrats, deep state bureaucrats. The Obama White House, they have one system of justice. Anyone else, you and me, anyone tied to Donald Trump, a different system of justice. This republic can't survive with a dual justice system, which brings us to our next critical point. I have been shouting this from the rooftop since May. We are about to face what I'm calling the most important midterm elections in our lifetime. 76 days from today, while the deep state is working around the clock to dig up dirt on anybody, anything associated with this president that you elected, the American people, Democrats are now planning to use this information to bring articles of impeachment against the president. It doesn't matter that there's no collusion. Mark Levin was right last night. Robert Mueller will write an impeachment document. It doesn't matter that the president did nothing wrong and broke no law. Mark my words, if Democrats, if you stay home on Election Day and Democrats take back the House of Representatives, I promise you, mark my words, they will bring articles of impeachment against the president. I have been warning about this for a long time. If you don't believe it now, I don't know what will make you believe it. 76 days, you will decide if the president and his agenda goes forward, because they will stop that. This November, the future of this continued successful economic boom, continued peace through strength, all of this, there's a lot of stuff at stake. And sadly, that's not all. We know what the Democratic agenda is. It's pretty scary, actually. Let's see. What they called crumbs, your tax cuts, they want their crumbs back. And as we said, they want to impeach the president. As we've told you, they want to preserve Obamacare. Lose your doctor, lose your plan, pay more. That seems to work for them. They want to block Judge Kavanaugh and constitutionalists to the Supreme Court, originalists. They want open borders. They want to eliminate ICE. They're saying as much. They want to kill off all of these investigations. Just drop it right there for their deep state friends and this massive abuse of power that we have been able to expose. And as always, the mainstream media, the destroy Trump media, they're just doing the bidding of the left. The Democratic Party. They're an extension of their press office. And like a broken record, you know, for what seems like the millionth time, the crisis peddlers in the news media in this country, the echo chamber, they're all predicting the same thing because it's what they're hoping for. Impeachment. This is what they've wanted for a long time. This is their shot. Take a look.
Given the events of today, the likelihood of impeachment, I'm not saying it's high necessarily, but it certainly went up.
Impeachment.
Impeached.
Impeachment. Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
Impeachment.
The president is clearly guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. He should resign his office or be impeached.
Today, the Trump presidency took a giant step toward impeachment.
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 Impeachment implications are now in the air.
Impeachment.
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 If it is a crime, it certainly is an impeachable offense.
Impeach Trump.
Impeachment.
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 Remember S-hole, S-hole, S-hole. Remember Stormy, Stormy, Stormy. Russia, Russia, Russia. They hyperventilate over whatever the issue is of the day. For over 24 hours, your apocalyptic press have been working overtime, in overdrive, pushing anti-Trump conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. We have the evidence. Take a look. You decide.
The man who once said he'd take a bullet for Donald Trump today in federal court was essentially calling his old boss and client, now the president of the United States, a crook.
So there are a lot of players now who start to potentially construct an enterprise, a criminal enterprise that is around or may even involve the president.
It's very baked in as of now and is not going to change that Donald Trump is indeed a scumbag. Voters know that.
I
I think there is something worse than a useful idiot, and that would be a useful idiot under legal siege. And that is what President Donald Trump is this morning.
You really want to stay home in 76 days? Do you vote for the president? You happy with the economy? You want to stay the course? You like the judges appointed? You want borders secured? Do you want health care transformed? Do you want peace through strength? But it's this kind of breathless, abusive bias. It's the very reason the president has rightly criticized.
Enemy of the people?
No, not at all. But the fake news is. And the fake news is comprised of, it's a lot, it's a big chunk, okay? Somebody said, what's the chunk? I said, 80%. It's a lot. It's a lot. If I do something well, it's not reported. Other than in the 20%. I mean, the New York Times cannot write a good story about me. They're crazed. They're like lunatics.
As you can see from tonight's monologue, I told you a long time ago, the very beginning. It actually started the day he and Melania came down the escalator. 5 forces that have been working against the president. They're now more active. They sense there's blood in the water. They are literally harmoniously working together. And yeah, most of them would love the impeachment of the president you voted for and stop the progress, ruin his agenda. Now, this is real, and never has it been more important. If you care about your vote in 2016, you might want to register and vote, knowing that this hate, this destruction, this havoc that will occur if the Democrats take back the House. It's a clear and present danger. So don't tell me, by the way, the morning after the election that you didn't have sufficient knowledge of what they would do. 76 days from today, you have a massive opportunity to protect your vote in 2016. Preserve that vote. Repair the system of justice. Make this country a better place for every American. There's a lot riding on this midterm. They want to undo the agenda you voted for. They want to stop the progress we have obviously made that they'll never talk about in the media. All right, before we wrap up our monologue tonight, let's turn to this horrific, sad story out of Iowa. 20-year-old college student Molly Tibbetts senselessly murdered. Her body recovered in a cornfield. And now a Mexican national in this country illegally has now confessed to stalking and murdering Molly Tibbetts while she was out jogging. The monster likely responsible for this crime is now being held on $5 million in bail. Earlier today, the president, he reacted on Twitter. Take a look.
Molly Tibbetts, an incredible young woman, is now permanently separated from her family. A person came in from Mexico illegally and killed her. We need the wall. We need our immigration laws changed. We need our border laws changed. We need Republicans to do it because the Democrats aren't going to do it. To the family of Molly Tibbetts, all I can say is God bless you.
FoxNews.com has been covering this tragic story for weeks. We'll have more coverage on this later in the show. Joining us now, first with reaction, our top story of the night, back from her exclusive interview with the president today. She is Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhardt. How are you? Good to see you.
Good
What's
to
going
see
on?
you,
You doing okay? Congratulations.
Thank you for having me on.
Big interview. There's a lot there. Let's first start to the news from yesterday. He talked a lot about Michael Cohen. Mm-hmm. We just heard part of it. Paul Manafort. Tell us what he said.
Well, so when we sat down with him, my questions were, Michael Cohen's story changed. Originally, he said that I paid off women. The president didn't know about it. Then all of a sudden his story changes. And then he's also pleading guilty to 8 different counts. So do we believe him? That was the question this morning. You know, this is a guy that's lied, tax returns, fraud, all this. And now he's changing his story about the president. So when I sat down with the president, I said, my number one question that I wanted to ask him is, what happened? Did you know? Did he pay off these women? Did you know about it? And he said, I didn't at first, and now I know about it. And I said, well, if it wasn't illegal, because we've had several attorneys that have been on, they were on our morning show saying it's not illegal to do this. So if it's not illegal, then how did he get a plea bargain? How did he was facing 65 years behind bars in prison. How did he go from 65 years possibly max to 3 to 5 years? If it wasn't illegal, why are they using that? He said, because if there is something negative that they can say about me, they will use that and they will lessen their sentence. That extreme, just because they hate me. Keep in mind, this was the Mueller investigation.
Right.
Mueller investigation was looking into Manafort's past, was looking into Cohen's past, and that led them to all of these tax fraud. It has nothing to do with Russia.
Is he more mad at Michael because of the tape?
Absolutely.
Than, say, Paul Manafort? Because I noticed in his comments yesterday he mentioned Manafort, but not Michael.
He mentioned pardoning Manafort, and then you have Michael Cohen's attorney, Lanny Davis.
He did mention pardoning Manafort.
He did, and said that he would consider that. I think he feels bad for Manafort. They were friends. He didn't work for him for very long, worked for him for basically 100 days. The president didn't know about all of this tax stuff. Of course, he wouldn't know about that. It was. Yeah. And he did say, he said, keep in mind, he worked for Reagan for a long time.
Worked for a lot of people.
And no one's talking about that. Yeah. It's just because he's associated with me and they hate me so much.
Did you, what I'm pointing out, and I believe, and I've talked about this for a long time, is that there are these forces against the president. I talk about 5 of them. I also believe with the Democrats' agenda, they're telegraphing it. 76 days from now, there's going to be an election.
Midterm.
I believe, and I've been saying on the air, that they would want to impeach him. Did any of, with all the hysteria in the media, did that come up at all?
It did. I asked him that question. I said, if the Democrats win the midterms, their agenda is going to be to impeach, because there's no Russia collusion, at least so far. So what's the next step? If they hate you so much, what are they going to do? And he agreed that impeachment, they're going to try to impeach. And he said he basically expects that.
You know, there's so many key players here, and there is such a double standard, because we know a lot. We know Hillary obstructed. We know that she paid for Russian propaganda to influence the American people, which is kind of cheating because it was never verified or corroborated. These were lies that she paid for, funneled money, which is another issue we just pointed out. But then you've got, you know, you got the FISA warrant abuse. Nobody's getting indicted in those cases. A lot of this goes back to Jeff Sessions.
Yeah.
And did he talk about either Jeff or Rod or Mueller?
He did. Yeah, I can't tell you what he said about that, because I did ask him that. I've got to say it for the morning show.
Well, give us
I did ask him. I said, are you going to fire Jeff Sessions? There are rumors you're going to fire him. There are rumors you're going to fire Rosenstein. And, you know, what are you thinking? And I'm not going to tell you, you've got to watch the morning show, because I can't give it all away here.
But
he did say,
yeah.
He did say that it's such a double standard, beyond a double standard. What happened with Hillary Clinton and how she got off? What happened with the IT guy from
what he says
Debbie
about
Wasserman
Sessions?
Schultz? That's going to break news.
What he said about Sessions and Rosenstein and Mueller?
Absolutely.
Wow. What else can you tell us?
There was so much more. We asked him about Molly Tibbetts and ICE, and how he's doubled down. You know, he's gotten, so many people are saying abolish ICE, but he doubles down. He brings ICE to the White House and honors them.
So there is a lot of news here that people want to see in the morning.
I will say there was so much breaking news yesterday, and there was so much negative news. Hats off to him for sitting down with me today. I think that was very brave, because we learned in journalism school, if someone sets a narrative, you've got to defend yourself.
All right, 6 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you for sharing your interview with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Tomorrow morning, 6 to 9. All right, we got a lot more coming up straight ahead. All right, just minutes ago, the president tweeted out, the only thing that I have done wrong is to win an election that was expected to be won by crooked Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. The problem is they forgot to campaign in numerous states. Here with reaction, author of now 3 weeks in running, #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russian Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton framed Donald Trump, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, and Fox News investigative reporter, contributor Sarah Carter. I was a little intrigued by what Ainsley said about in the interview. She didn't give us about Rod Rosenstein and Sessions. It seems at this point we're never going to get. They're defying subpoenas. They're not listening. Jeff Sessions literally created this mess.
Here's why they should be fired. I talked to a former career guy, a lawyer at the Department of Justice today. He said it is outrageous that Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein would authorize a guilty plea to a non-crime. And this is a guy who spent much of his career doing election law. And he laughed and he said, this is not a crime. It's not a violation of federal election laws for several reasons. First of all, it's not a crime to contribute to your own campaign, and that's what the president did. Even if he ran it through an LLC temporarily, that's nothing more than a loan or advance. That is not a crime. And second of all, He said it doesn't even count as a campaign expense. Why? Because there's another dual purpose, a personal or commercial reason for it. So this is outrageous that there was a guilty plea for a non-crime.
Wait a minute. 2 of the 8 counts we're talking about here. Not 1, 2.
And they were, Professor Dershowitz is right, they were add-ons. They didn't care about Michael Cohen. They wanted to give him a sweetheart deal so that he would say something to implicate the president, and he implicated the president in a non-crime.
You know, whether or not the media is aware of the issues we pointed out and many of the stories that you've been able to break, Sarah, there's still real legal issues that are out there. We still have we have Comey and McCabe and Strzok and Page and Sally Yates and this deep state. We do have FISA court judges lied to. We did have a fix in an investigation with Hillary Clinton, and the evidence was over a fact. There's a lot more information coming out, probably sooner than later.
Absolutely. And let me just go to one point, Sean, about Mueller. This is the most important point. As he's targeting everyone in Trump's campaign, previous campaign officials, remember, it's Attorney General Jeff Sessions that was with him for some point of time. Rod Rosenstein also wrote the letter that asked President Trump to basically fire Comey, and he listed out a number of reasons. So let's think about this. Jeff Sessions could be a potential witness. That leads me to suspect that he may himself resign from the position of Attorney General eventually. If he is called by Mueller, he can't serve as the Attorney General and then be a witness. And then you have Rod Rosenstein.
Well,
Isn't he a potential witness?
Conflicted the whole time.
Yes, of course. He's been conflicted. So these are 2 very real possibilities, something that can happen. And mark my words, this is something that could drag Jeff Sessions right into the Mueller investigation. So the irony here is that it may work in the favor of getting rid of Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein.
Think about this. Mueller has already interviewed his own boss, Rod Rosenstein. I mean, talk about a conflict of interest.
There's a new book out. It's not as good as yours, of course. But Peter Schweitzer. Right. It's the guy that brought us Uranium One, the guy that brought us Clinton Cash.
Government Accountability Institute.
Do you know that Jim Comey worked for Lockheed Martin?
That's right.
We're going to break a lot of this tomorrow. I'm just giving a little teaser here. In 1 year, 2009 alone, they say in the book that James Comey was paid $6.1 million just for Lockheed Martin, working for them. Right. And this was on, new important spy information. I'm not suggesting anything necessarily is nefarious, but it's never been disclosed. And that Robert Mueller was at the FBI and that signed off on that 6.1 in that 1 year. Now, there's 5 other years. I don't know how much he got paid the other 5. He also got $6 million at reports from a hedge fund. That's an awful lot of money, it seems to me.
Oh, yeah. These guys were leveraging their government positions, according to the book, to enrich themselves and the companies in the private sector they were working for. Yeah. It's very much the same arguments I make in my book of how they were leveraging their relationship with each other for a long period of time, and which is why this is a conflict of interest. For Mueller to be investigating the president on a case in which his longtime friend, ally, and partner, James Comey, is a key witness against the president.
I think when people see this, and Sarah, give us a little hint what you're working on in the next couple of weeks.
Well, we have a lot more stories coming forward, especially on the Clinton Foundation and members of the FBI, and a little bit more on the FISA application. So I say stay tuned.
I can't wait to talk to those FISA court judges that fraud was perpetrated on them. I wonder how they feel. I was brought up old-fashioned, that if you're subpoenaed, you don't delete your emails and acid wash the hard drive and bust up devices. And I was also taught to a judge, you say, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor, and you don't purposefully lie to judges to get a warrant to spy on an opposition party candidate. But I might just be old-fashioned. I'm maybe a little out of touch. And I know that's not the same as, let's see, taxes going back 10 years.
You wouldn't fit in the current DOJ FBI.
All right. Good work, both of you. When we come back, Michelle Malkin, Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, reacting to an illegal immigrant charged in Molly Tippett's murder. And later, Newt Gingrich joins us as well. A lot to get to tonight. Stay with us. All right, earlier tonight, the president released a video on Twitter talking about the murder of Molly Tibbetts, about the need for border security. We showed you that earlier. And joining us now with reaction, she is the host of CRTV's Michelle Malkin Investigates. Michelle Malkin, Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, by the way, is filling in on the 5 all this week. Congratulations.
Thank
Good for you. They're a great group of people. Everyone is great on the show.
Awesome.
Let me start with you. You have a lot of statistics.
I do.
This election, we hear all these people. We hear about sanctuary cities, which basically, to me, is aiding and abetting lawbreaking, because we do have laws. We are a nation of laws. The same thing with abolishing ICE and demonizing them for doing their job.
Right. Sean, our ICE agents do so much in this country for us. And in Florida alone, as Attorney General, they're amazing. Look at these. Okay, first of all, there are so many gangs from out of this country in my state. Listen to this. In 2014, with no border security, 1,200 criminal gangs were identified, 1,200 separate gangs, 53,000 documented gang members, documented by law enforcement.
In Florida.
In Florida. And over 11,000 gangs in prison or on DOC supervision in my state. That's why we have to build a wall.
Why are they not sent back if they're in the justice system?
Exactly. And they're not only doing burglaries, robberies, supporting drug habits, they're into human trafficking, too.
Well, we can't bring Kate Steinle back, and we're not going to be able to bring Molly Tibbetts back. And, Michelle, Pam's talking about one state. I've mentioned it a lot on the air. We've shown it a lot on the air. I've been down to the border, Rio Grande, to San Diego at least a dozen times. Horseback, all-terrain vehicle. Horseback was embarrassing. Helicopters, boats. I've been there. I sat through a security briefing in Texas alone during an 7-year period, 642,000 crimes committed against Texans alone. This is, and by the way, some of those were murder, and some of them are heinous, violent crimes. To me, the fact that we haven't secured the border and Democrats don't want to secure the border, it probably could be campaign issue number 1 in 76 days, Michelle.
Well, it should be, and it will be if Americans finally rise up and push back against the politicization of this issue, not by presidential aliens pretty much every day, as I have for the last 25 years. I've devoted much of my career to exposing the bloody consequences of open borders. I wrote 2 books about it. I, too, have been to the border many times and have many sources I've developed at all levels of government that deal with these problems. Here's the point. The case that we are talking about today underscores a message I have been sending. These examples are arguments for more and vigorous and better enforcement and not less. And as a campaign issue, you have Democrats who are all lockstep that ICE should be abolished. They are finally openly, brazenly, like Keith Ellison is saying, that we should have no borders at all. It is a disgrace. You've got Elizabeth Warren now lecturing people about which family separations they should be caring about. Molly Tibbetts has been permanently, violently separated from her family. Of course we should care. And now you have members of the media who are attacking this channel and people on it for caring about cases like this that happen every single day in America.
I'm going to get to that in the next segment. It is sad, and it's preventable. That's the thing. And especially, you know, you look at the sanctuary city laws, and Pam, they won't hand over to ICE people that are in the criminal justice system. They literally refuse to obey the law. Why, again, it's sort of like Hillary and her emails that, you know, delete, destroy, break up devices. I think I'd go to jail. If I committed a fraud to FISA judges, I think I'd go to jail. These are dumb things to do. I also think that if I was able to release a criminal and hide them and not hand them over to law enforcement, why do I think I'd go to jail on that too? And how do they all get away with it? Because they're complicit, they're aiding and abetting crimes.
They certainly are. And then you have people like Elizabeth Warren enabling them by her ridiculous statements about, well, this is, you know, one girl who died, how sorry she is. But we have to look at what's best for all of these illegal immigrants. Well, one death is too much.
Yeah, but it's okay if you don't pay your taxes and you're friends with Donald Trump, or you lie on a loan application and you're friends with Donald Trump. There's our 2-tier justice system. Michelle Malkin.
Yeah, I want to say this too. There is no such thing as a free lunch, and there's no such thing as cheap, illegal alien labor. Every person in this country has a responsibility to help uphold our immigration laws, and that includes employers. E-Verify is only used by 10% of employers in America. That is astonishing. There need to be both real civil and criminal penalties for employers who knowingly and intentionally and deliberately employ illegal aliens in this country. They have blood on their hands, too.
All right, Michelle Milken, thank you. Congrats, Pam, on the 5 all week here on the Fox News Channel. You don't want to miss it. When we come back, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, will talk about the election in 76 days. Molly Tippett's murder. Wait till you hear what was said in an investigation into Hillary. Straight ahead.